I know I've been something of a, a bit of a rabid dog lately when it comes to things I disagree with and things I wish to oppose lately, but now I want to speak a little bit on the core reasons as to why I've been rejecting certain ideological movements. And it's really because I don't think they're productive when it comes to being an atheist and affecting secular change. It's probably likely that part of the rise and success of social justice movements has been because of recoil from right-wing conservative ideologies. I've stated before that the idea that the right wing is the political ideology that best suits small government in keeping Uncle Sam out of your business. And I do not think that's true, and hasn't been for a very long time. As a supporter of LGBT rights, as a supporter of women's rights to choose what happens with their own bodies, and really as a supporter of individual freedom, of social libertarian ideals in terms of the government not telling you what you can do and what you can say and what you can put in your own body or do with your own body. The right wing has been the leader against those freedoms. And it's understandable that the social justice community would be very opposed to the right wing. It's just as common if you're an anti-feminist or an anti-social justice warrior to be called right wing as it is to be called MRA. And in fact, the two pejoratives are used in tandem frequently, that you are a right wing MRA if you're an anti-feminist. But I see social justice as often, especially intersectional feminism in particular, as being aimed towards replacing one compulsory ideology with another, and replacing another kind of sexism and racism with another kind of sexism and racism, because I support the rights of black people to not be abused and targeted and discriminated against by police doesn't mean that I think that the Black Lives Matter movement is the best way to target police brutality. I would rather the face of being against police brutality is to show police brutality in its entirety and to say this movement is anti-police brutality, and my message to be not that Black Lives Matter, but that police brutality matters and needs to be eradicated. I don't believe in handing the crown of a movement to a race or to a gender or to a particular ideology or even really to a particular movement. And I don't think it's really done that particular movement any favors to make the face of the movement black when we have such a problem, especially in certain news media organizations, Fox News, to treat everything with dog whistle racism and race baiting in general. I don't see that the best voice to be going for is the kind of people who do sort of shamefully race bait and racialize everything, like Al Sharpton, or on the other side of that coin, Bill O'Reilly, to have control of this. And so now we're starting to see, again, a sort of reforming of the broken, shattered T1000 of Atheism Plus reforming itself, where us secular humanists and atheists are being pressured to tie ourselves in and to pay homage to social justice movements and to feminism. I've said several times that the strongest nature of atheism is in that it has no burden of proof. And if any of you have been interested in atheism for any amount of time, you've encountered this in all debates, that what is repeatedly attempted to have done is that the theist wants to assign the atheist burden of proof, because it is a severe handicap in any argument that you have to prove that there's no God. Well, I don't have to prove there's no God, because I don't believe necessarily that there is no God. I believe that it is of the utmost likeliness that there are no gods. I don't think that any religion has proved or even provided meaningful evidence that there is a God. And therefore, I feel fully justified in being an atheist, because I don't see any way that there is a God. There could be one, but there is no good reason to believe there is. So I don't have to say there's no God. In fact, I don't say there's no God. All I have to say, all any atheist has to say, is prove it. And we've known for a very long time that the apologists for religions can't. Their arguments have all been debunked, and they've brought virtually nothing new to the table for over 100 years. So now we're being asked, as an entire movement of incredibly disparate peoples from different regions, different ethnicities, different cultures, different ages, different genders, sexual identities, creeds, politics, to say that we have a responsibility. We are being asked to have the responsibility not just to defend atheism, but that as atheists, we should be atheists plus social justice warriors. And if you would have any look at what kinds of feminists there are, what kind of social justice warriors they are, and if you spend as much time as I have listening to these people, you'd find that it would take very little, especially if these people were all asked into a room that's talking about atheism, to destroy each other. All different kinds of feminists, and there's about as many different kinds of feminists as there is, different kinds of Christians, that the infighting would be near instantaneous. And each one of these infighting groups would have the burden of proof, would have necessarily needing to say, my function as an atheism plus my ideology is better than yours, is better than everybody else's, and is full of positive claims like this is what we should do about this issue, and this is how this issue is solved, and this is how these two different races should treat each other. And what's most uncomfortable is every time one of these atheism plus type organizations tries to form, or people advocate for this position, they're very frequently saying things that are the reason why I am not a feminist and am not a social justice warrior. They'll take a look at Dennett, Hitchens, Harris, and Dawkins and say, look at these old white men. Why is our movement made up of old white men? Why does it matter, is all I would say to them. And these people don't give a shit about Ayaan Hirsi Ali or anybody else who doesn't fit the old white men mentality. And how old is Sam Harris anyways? Is he already past your ageist threshold into irrelevancy? Why do we say these horribly discriminatory things about people who do not hold their position because they are old, and do not hold their position because they are white or because they are men, but because of the content of their character? I hope I don't have to keep bringing this up. That they've traveled the world in debates and in lectures and written books that are bestsellers that I'm sure were not all bought by old white men for the interests of solidarity with other old white men. Do you see how this is kind of an issue of a projection? Surely, if you're an ideologue who believes primarily in the validity, the outright, all-encompassing validity of an ethnic group or an age or a gender above the outright validity of another ethnic group or gender or age or whatever, you would think that they're projecting. There's definitely something of a patriarchal vein, a patriarchal stripe to conservative fundamentalist Christians. And it's easy to see the Peter Popoffs and the fucking Kent Hovens, the Ken Hams, and go, oh, look at this old white men fucking shit. Well, surely we need to counteract that by instituting a mandatory forced respect of young women of color or something like that. No, that's hypocrisy. If some young woman of color produces the same charisma and good points and invaluable material and addition to the discourse as, say, Christopher Hitchens, do you think they won't get the same respect? Why not? How many times do you have to hear a social justice warrior add some caveat? Well, I'm sure not all white men are bad, and I'm sure that not everybody who's white would, not all of them would be predestined to be more interested in the additions of another white person, but, it's really the rule. It's just an assertion, and it's not one that I subscribe to. It doesn't pay to add this kind of divisive bullshit into one of the most inclusive and successful, because of its inclusivity, movements there's ever been. There's only one requirement to be an atheism: a lack of belief in God or gods. And it is because of that that we are so diverse and so already meet these pathological needs of social justice warriors. So you got to ask yourself, if we are already all-inclusive and already don't have any sort of ethnic or geographical or gender or sexuality or whatever requirements to join, what do you think they're going to do if they have control of the reins? When they're looking to add requirements where there are none, ask yourself, if a social justice warrior got to pick and choose everything about atheism, what good would it do? And more importantly, what harm would it do? Think about it. Thanks for watching.